Guys are here because AI is this big, crazy thing, and everyone is talking about it, and there's a lot going on. And in the end, I just want to know what it means for you, what you can do, how to explore the possibilities of it, and what the impacts are going to be. So we're going to do our best to address that. Hi, I'm Ronnie Evans. I have been working on this AI thing for a few years now, and just this year decided to finally launch Goodguy.AI, which is meant to be like I don't like the word nexus because it's in ChatGPT all the time, so it sounds like an AI description, but it's the best description for it. Like aggregate points so that we can translate what's happening outside of our industry, internally in the industry, and then whether it's players, creators, or fans, it's easier to navigate and make sure that we are positively impacted by it. I've got more to say there, but I want to give it over to Joe. And then, actually, before I do that, I use AI for everything personally, and I am building a bunch of different apps.
All right, here we go. Thank you, Ronnie. And Joe Bryant, FootballGuys. We, a little like Ronnie, I use AI extensively personally. I just found it to be a super useful way to help me do lots of different things. It's just general product review, checking this, trying to do research, and I'll also use it to help me polish a writing thing, especially if I've got a difficult thing I'm trying to say, challenging, a difficult conversation to have. This is what I'd like to say to help me out, make this a little more clear, and I find it useful, so I use it there. And as a company, FootballGuys has just unveiled our toe dipping into the water of something we're calling the assistant coach. The focus there on it is that the interface looks very similar to traditional AI, but it's mainly a navigation. You're asking who to start, and it points you to Sigmund Bloom, the FootballGuys, says this is what we think. Matt Wallman, the FootballGuys, or Bob Harris, the FootballGuys. So it's very much more of a navigational aid than a creating content, feeling like out of thin air type thing. But we're just getting started with it as well. I mean, we are very, if anybody heard this last talk, I'm very big on the community part, very big on writer connection and all that. We spend a lot of time thinking about how we're not going to be replaced by AI, but we also understand the use of it as well.
That's my target work. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Chris Allen. If you don't ever see me rambling on a podcast or in my writing over either fantasy life or Yahoo Sports, I think I bring a unique perspective on AI because for my day job, I'm also an engineer. I work for the Air Force Research Labs as a science and technology manager. So a lot of what I do as a part of my job is using the AI from an analytics-based perspective. So being able to take large sums of data and try and pull away the proper conclusions from it so that we can make determinations on structural components, how to best go about determining the disposition for any sort of material that we're trying to use, things of that nature. So seeing this transition of AI from a strictly technical standpoint to something that's collaborated in advancing football has been pretty interesting to me because I do use it from a personal standpoint on just making things faster. If I want to search for something, find out about a player or try and find out a new data source or things along those lines, having AI available to you has made it easy for me to find a new tool or a new site or a new voice in the space in order to try and listen and figure out their process or their case may be. So there are pros and cons to trying to use AI and integrate it into your process, and we'll get into the conversation a bit more throughout this panel. There are some guardrails that you need to put in place so that you are getting the correct answer. So it should be fun. I think there should be a good conversation about it.
Awesome. I'm Aishik. First of all, join with these guys. They're great. Thanks for having me on. I've been an entrepreneur for almost a decade now. I'm a fantasy football fanatic for almost 2. I'm one of the founders over here at Rotobot.AI. We've been building probably for about 2.5 years. Ever since GPT came out, we've been very fond of this concept of really delivering advice, insights of all kinds to anybody who wants. I think right now the sentiment around AI is interesting because its prevalence doesn't seem like it's going away anytime soon. I think there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of optimism, a lot of skepticism. But I think the way I really view it is instead of viewing AI as some sort of outsider, alien type of thing that's coming in and potentially swooping in the industry, I like to see it as something that, ultimately the common thread between what has existed and AI is that it's being used to improve the convenience of use for the end user to help us, spend maybe less time researching. There's a lot of people who, for example, I've heard this so many times already, where, I used to play fantasy, but I can't anymore because I got married and have kids. And I would say it's a collective effort for this industry because we want to keep that passion. And yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Thanks, Aishik. So one last thing before we dive into the discussion, just from an AI acceptance and adoption standpoint, if you go over to Goodguy.AI, the first article that I posted there is a guide on how to figure out where you are in AI adoption. And it runs through 10 stages or so. Most people are kind of in a place of they're aware, they might be using it for emails, they might be using it to source things like Google AI search overview is now kind of taken over and is replacing what we all have trained our websites for as an SEO. Now we got to adjust that. But a lot of people are still really, really hungry, and that is super understandable. I don't know, we had one reference point that was colloquially our thing, and that was a Terminator. So it makes sense that there is a lot of trepidation to finally start tapping into a technology that movies like that, sci-fi, and everything has been so, we call it extreme, in example. I would say that the best thing you can do is to try to get away from your fear and try to tap in, because it is truly a second brain. It helps you with just about everything. And there's still a lot of misconceptions about what it can do, and that's going to keep up. I spend 3 to 5 hours a day. I have for 3 years on AI. I can't keep up with all of it. There's too much going on. And ChatGPT 5 dropped while we were at the bar on Thursday. Wanted to go play with it. I have for a couple hours. It's great. But with every new update, the next day there's another one, and the next day there's 5, and then there's a new trick to talking to it, and it's just a lot to absorb. So instead of trying to keep up with all of that, try to tap into it, and try to tap into it creatively for you and empowering for you. Don't worry about other people. I think what you guys were talking about at the end of the Football Guys panel, that Michael Porter from, there's a great paper called What is Strategy from Harvard Business Review, from Redefine Global Economics and Business Strategy. And his whole thing was, you won't have a strategy unless you figure out a unique competitive edge. Think about what you have that's unique and what you can do that's special, or something that you've always wanted to do. And then have AI be your tool and your companion to get you there, to teach you everything, and show you how to be creative, and the possibilities are endless. And that is, to wrap that up, just the whole point of the thing is it's a creative thing. And the first thing I told this industry a few years ago, and a post that was a little early, and a lot of people thought I was crazy, but don't fire your creatives. If you run a site, if you have a business, and you have creative people, I know that their skill set is the one that is the most quickly being validated by AI, and I can relate. My first job was as a journalist. I used to be a musician. I went to school for graphic design. My entire personal ethos of specialness, I had to wrap my head around a few years ago when this came out. But people that are creative are going to be able to go in and look at a well thought out, well established business and take this very abstract, complicated thing and find good new ways that you might not have thought of to implement it. So if you have graphic designers and you're thinking about letting go 1 or 2 because you don't need them as much, keep them and tell them to go spend 20 hours a week on AI and report back to you. That's the last thing I'd say on that. Do you guys have any other thoughts before we open this up to questions? Because I mostly want to answer. All right, one last rating for me. My first product from Goodguy.AI is the commission. It's an automated commission. It's in data. That whole thing that's out there, if you scan the QR code, you can sign up for the list. It's going to be in a couple weeks. And start pulling people in, and I'll stagger the next season. I think that being a commissioner is really, really important to do. And it's also just the most common thing. And it seems like a really approachable, easy way to introduce it. It's not invalidating anything. It's just and as you think about question is good. This stuff is a lot. And so,
Yeah, so I use it all the time. It's very, very helpful. Obviously, it seems to help a lot of time with research. Sometimes, not sometimes, pretty often, it brings back other years where it brings in long data. And I know it because I know the information. Whoa, that's not right. I'll pop in and Herbert for this. That's not true. I remember that when you look back. How much time should we spend verifying it to be sure it's the correct data? Because you might as well just do work that way. So I know, so you said 20 hours for an engineer to keep fine-tuning and patching and all that stuff with AI to toggle with it. How much time should we invest as creators to use it as a tool, but then you get to verify it? I'm still trying to find, it's almost like I'm double doing the work.
no, that's a great question. I'm going to let you guys answer that, but my quick one-sentence answer is spend as little time as you feel comfortable with. If you spend 30 minutes a day with AI for 3 weeks, you'll be ahead of 85% of people, and you'll be able to then start to like get into the flow state with it, and start to pick up on the little idiosyncrasies of like what to say. A lot of people talk about really complicated things like having to know how to prompt, and that was really important 2 years ago. It's really not that important. Yeah, the rules, especially if it's a reasoning tool, it'll figure out what you need, and it's going to help guide you along. So just invest the time you can. You don't have to go spend all of your free time doing it like some of us have. But the truth is, it's so good now that you can just tap in, and I'd say 20 to 30 minutes a day. If you can hit that mark, within a few weeks, you'll be the most capable person in your firm. So
I'll give my 2 cents on that. And I think Ronnie, you were kind of pointing to where I wanted to take this, in that you already have an idea that some of the data is wrong. And I think that's probably one of the key things I think is critical for using a lot of these AI tools. A lot of folks, they'll take a look at ChatGPT or whatever other AI tool that's available and say, well, once I put in the prompt and once it spits out something, that's gospel. I'm good. I'll on to the next thing. Having an understanding or even just the thought that once you get something, you need to make sure that that data is correct. Even just double checking it. Not saying that you have to, once it spits out some sort of numerical result, that you have to check through all the calculations, build the model, verify it, spend 20 hours, almost double different work like you were saying. You don't have to do that. But if you already have some of the nuance and context to say that, well, some of these numbers on Joe Burrow's passing numbers, that doesn't look right. I know where to check that. Some of these numbers on Justin Herbert's stuff, it doesn't look right. I know where to check that. I think that is probably almost the more important part to using AI is that Ronnie was saying earlier, this is something to make your life easier. It's not going to make your life faster, not always going to make your life faster, not always going to make it simple. Even just having the understanding and wherewithal to say that I can't just summarily put something in, get something out, and then keep moving. You might have to double check it. And it might just take 5 minutes. It might just take 2 seconds for you to pull up a PFR site, double check this, and keep pushing. So I think that's probably, to me, that's the key thing. And if you can sit down in 20 minutes or something along those lines to double check where you're at, I think that's great. If you want to spend even more time trying to make sure or forming the correct prompts in order to make sure that once you do this in the future, it is really just something in, something out, keep moving. But still, that's the more critical piece to me is that you're sitting there saying that once I get something that I need to verify, there always has to be, or there should be, a human in the loop so that once you get something out, you're just not summarily accepting the results and then going from there.
My quick answer on that, we always say we don't trust any numbers that it creates. We think of it as it's your know-it-all friend that thinks they know everything about everything, but they don't. So use it for an idea, let it put you down a rabbit hole that we don't trust it yet. Now, 3 years from now, 3 weeks from now, maybe we may have this conversation where that's not factoring right now. We're very much on that verified before we bring it.
I actually love your question a lot because I think it really explains why we're actually building what we're building. Because right now with the foundational models, if you ask a question, it's going to scrape the web. It's going to look up hundreds of sources, right? So in one of those 100 sources, it can have a Joe Burrow from 2022 or 2023. It's going to take bits and pieces of each one. For us, our overall bent is on the vertically integrated machines, right? So, like, we're building something very niche, something trained on exactly a certain data set. So with us, we know that we don't have to surf the whole web. We can, just pull from the select 2024 or 2023 database on command. So I think if we go into foundational models, there will have to be, at least for the short-term future, some verifying of correct information. But hypothetically, if you're building very niche and focused, there might not have to be double checking. So that kind of explains why we're going to have to.
Many curious, I use AI in other aspects of the football. So, to learn how, obviously, FootballGuys has one, there's the Goodguy.AI. Do they all do functionally the same thing, or are they niche focused? So you're looking for a certain percentage, maybe you're looking for recommendations, maybe different. Can you talk about what different types there are and what you can use them for?
Yeah, that's a great. So if you're not going to use one of the fancy football specialized tools, I don't use this one that much because I don't really care for it, but Rob is probably going to be the most trafficked fantasy analyst this year. It's there, it's there, it's positioned for it. And it also is the only one with active data that is trained on the industry. ChatGPT is going to source it, it's going to get lazy throughout the process, and by the time it's done, it doesn't do well. So use Grok if you want to do it quick and easy. But Rotobot is incredible. It's an advice folder. I'll let you talk about that in a second. FootballGuys has one fantasy alarm, just launched one. FootballGuys fantasy alarm and field sites are doing what it needs to be saying, hey, we're going to embrace the AI, and it's going to be the same thing you love about us, but a different and easier delivery. And then outside of that, there's like 20 things. The gold standard is what tools is in it. So for most people, they 2 or 3 years ago were 17 I would have gotten a little bit better than you. There you go. So there's a lot. I'll put an article up on Goodguy later this week. And that is the intent of my site is a translation point, so you can go and look at how they're performing against each other, what the rules are.
Well, like cybersecurity, and it's not really in that world, but we're putting out a lot of content, and information's out there that bad actors can potentially get your information, get into your website, and those sort of things. How much are you investing in cybersecurity to ensure that your sites and your platforms are secure? What kind of percentage should you? I'm not an expert, trust me. I should use it. But like right now, like if I get to that point, like how much of your business, how much you investing into the IT portion?
So, excellent question. And I think the thing that I'm trying to wrap my mind around is this. For me personally, a lot of the data that I wind up using is open, like free access anyway. So it's for football purposes, for PFRs, and you insert a lot of open data sources. So just for me personally, I invest a ton into it from a cybersecurity standpoint because I'm not creating proprietary information, or I'm not pulling from proprietary those types of sources that can require that level of security. But now for my day job, that is something that we do have to be concerned with because the materials that we're looking at, the types of information that we're pulling in order to say that this component is good, we should continue working on that, whatever. All that stuff winds up being locked down to the point where it's more or less a black box. You ask a question, the data goes in, you get an answer on the app on the other side, and then move from there. So from a fantasy football standpoint, unless you are moving into things, and I almost ask this guy's his perspective from a proprietary standpoint. Because if you are building something that be internal to you, so let's say, for instance, you want to try and put together a mock draft retrieval that would simulate how a person in a draft would pick. And their tendencies or biases and all of those things. And if you found a way to do that and model it, that might be something that you would want to keep close to the vest, right? And afterwards, that would be something that you want to ask. The only thing that you see, or the only thing that the consumer sees, is the result. Pick one is Jamar Chase, pick two is Saquon Barkley, and so on and so forth. So those types of things, if you are on the more entrepreneurial side, and you are going to wind up creating something that would be inherent, so this is something that I built, I modeled this, and I know how to simulate or whatever, then that would be the part where I would then start to invest in those types of things. But for the work that I do for myself, and for my writing and all the other content that I put out, a lot of that stuff is so easily accessible to anybody. I don't use as much investment in that type of work.
Yeah, that's similar to this. It just hasn't advanced to quite that stage yet, but we're worried that much about it yet. One thing we do, and maybe a little bit tangential point, is the copyright type stuff, like what is proprietary, what is behind a paywall. We have a lot of our content is free, and a lot of it is paywall. And that's how we make our money in our business, and that's a concern for the future. How do we keep that? You can summarize a book on AI that you didn't buy, that's it's in the public domain, or however those legalities go around. But it's a little bit scary sometimes. So that's something that we're keeping an eye on and see where it goes.
I would say for us, it definitely is really important. Our main focus, nonetheless, our number one priority is just building a good product at the end of the day. I think cybersecurity certainly matters, and we're considering some things there, but I think there's almost even like a flipping of incentive to like the stuff that we publish on our site. We almost want people to identify that as a good source of content to come from. So it's interesting how things are going to play out.
Real quick, in the future, cybersecurity is mostly a mirage, and just a note on that, it mostly has been for like 10 or 15 years. If somebody really wants your data, they can get it, but it's probably not going to happen. So it's one of these things, sort of like TSA security. Like you gotta think about it, go through it. Nothing's probably going to happen if it's there. So I wouldn't stress too much about it, but hard paywalls still work, and especially with AI scraping. That is something where a year and a half ago, I don't even know if I should share this, but just being transparent, I went and scraped most of them just to see if I could, and it worked. And I was happy with it since then. I will never share the output of that with anyone. It doesn't really work as much as you want. Like Cloudflare just launched something a month and a half ago that has put a safeguard on top of hard paywalls to prevent AI agents and scrapers from going in and extracting data. So it's going to be a back and forth forever, a cat and mouse game, just like all cybersecurity is, but definitely look and invest in it and think about it. And don't just trust your AI code to be secure. If you'll build an app with AI like I did, you better go spend a week like trying to figure out if it is open and someone that's a low-level coder can go in and see the weights or like do this and that. And so it's really important. One quick thing, I was sitting on a panel earlier and I wanted to let AI actually answer a few questions for us, and so I built a little GPT for us that's trained on some of the Expo data, but it's not using it, but it should answer in a way that tailors back to the industry, regardless of our questions, so we can use that a few times. And then to go back to something someone asked earlier, always check your stuff. AI, one of the misconceptions is that its data is old, so it's going to be inaccurate because it's old. That's not really true. It trains, and then it has a set. So I think GPT's training run, the most recent one was like earlier this year, was when they finished training, but they all have internet access. So when you ask it a question, it's going to go on the web, and the data will be current for the most part. If you want to get a really good answer, use the premium tool, deep research, deep search, thinking, they're all called different things, but those get you to where the pinnacle of AI is right now, and it is currently better than a PhD at every single subject known to man. In terms of resources that are going into it, there's a little bit under $2.5 trillion of data centers being built around the world right now. And for perspective, that's a little under 75 times the entire value of fertilizers. So it is like a big, massive thing. It's a lot to digest, but it is going to keep getting better. We are on an exponential curve. We're going post when it starts to get so fast that it's going to be impossible to really keep up with what the latest trick is, what the new technology is. I personally feel like we're kind of already there. So there's all that, and then the last thing for AI tool use is just really very point. If you go and ask AI to do work for you, check it every time. Just give it a once over because it has a 2 to 10% error rate if you're using a really good one. Some of them are a little higher. The funny thing is though, it's a lower error rate than that. Like as human beings, we are much more prone to error than those things are. But we're using a tool so we expect perfection, and it's not there yet. So, all that said, let's do a few more questions, and I'm going to let AI answer this, and then we'll talk about what I got wrong.
So I have a quick question for you guys. You and me got dinner the other night, and we were kind of talking of, there's a lot of people that love embracing AI, and there's a lot of people that are really reluctant of it, and don't want to talk to it, don't want to be a part of it. But no matter what side you're on, AI is here, and it is going to be part of the fantasy football industry now. So I have a question for you. When, obviously like this panel is probably really helpful, but as we separate and go into the Twitterverse and go into other communities, how do we get people that are a little more reluctant to continue to embrace AI? Like what can we use and what can we tell them to get this community together on AI so we can use it properly?
You have to present it in a way that makes them feel comfortable. So even if you have a tool that's amazing and it does a lot of really good work, if it's invalidating a bunch of people that someone loves, they're going to be really unlikely to adopt your tool. And we're currently facing that with AI in our industry. This industry is amazing. The people that built the industry are still around. And so just to segue a little bit from that, being open to transparent is prerequisite. And I think like last year, not necessary as much, but as you said, everyone's aware now. And if somebody is resistant, just do your best to politely keep nudging them. You can't be resistant anymore. You have to adopt. And there's going to be a point in the next 5 to 10 years where it's going to be just like the mid-2000s, where everyone in the 90s that hated the internet was using the internet. It's going to happen for everyone. So just encourage them and help them along. I keep rambling, but
I would say just piggybacking off of what Ronnie was saying is that if you can present somebody with their use case and essentially to say that, hey, let's say you're preparing for a podcast and I don't know how long you typically spend or to prep for it, but let's say it's on an hour and a half to 2 hours for a show. Thereabouts. But let's say if there was an AI tool that allowed you to not just sift through the players that you're going to talk about, but also have it spit out a few bullets here and there, some interesting nuggets about their career or along the topics that you're going to be discussing, whether it's going to be upcoming schedule, their historical play, whatever the case may be. And they can spit all that stuff out for you in about 5 minutes. That'd be a game changer, right? It'd be saving you time. So if that's the way that you can connect with somebody by offering that type of scenario to them, then that would be something that would allow you to build a bridge towards having that conversation of, well, how can you use AI in order to do something like that? So it's just finding that relation, that connection with them to say that, hey, if I provide you with this example or this use case to say AI can do this for you, would you be interested? And the answer is yes. Then you can move on to the next step to say, well, how can we build this, or how can we get you to the point where now this can be something that you can accept? Of course, all the things that we've been discussing up here would still be true. You still have to check it. You still have to make sure that you're putting in the right guardrails in order to get to the right answer. But it's just that first step of saying, well, this is what it could do for you. If you can find that, then I think that would be the best way, or at least start that conversation.
really quick. Just because I said we were going to do this, Aishik, don't lead with AI, lead with the problems they care about, similar to what Chris and I just said. And then if they think AI is a given or a threat, they'll reject it, but if they see it as something like better or more efficient or a smarter and easier way to do something, they're probably going to end up adopting. The trick with tech, in the golden rule, is it convenient? And if it is convenient and it's applicable, it will be adopted. And that has been true since the dawn of time. I like this reading in the Jersey, don't say AI models, say automated scouting report. Like there's little tricks like that too, but you can bring it to people for sure, even if they hate it. I've done a lot of that this week. Wow.
So, first, pestering is what you do to bring along slow adopters. It works really well for you. And it's much appreciated. What are the tactics, techniques you use? Like I use for editing, and it wants to make me happy. It wants to please me. That may even extend to creating errors or making up errors that don't exist. And you spend time wasting time to go track down errors that don't exist. But generally, my perception is it wants me to be happy, and it doesn't, without explicitly telling it to pull its punches, it seems not to even mitigate that.
You're talking about the sycophancy of AI?
I'm talking about like when you're using it as, let's say, an editor. I just think, yeah, in general, I think I run into that. It wants to make me happy.
If you are incredibly deliberate at the beginning of your prompt, and just add an opening line, you can direct the way the AI will work, no matter what AI uses. So if you're running into something like that, whatever the issue is, don't be a jerk if you don't want to. Maybe if it takes over one day and never remembers, so be nice. But go in and say, I do not want you to be a sycophant. Your job is to be an objective editor, and you need to execute this without any intent. If you say stuff like that, it should do a pretty good job, and then you might have to do a few interactions to get also.
I feel like the conversation's been very wide into like AI overall. What do you find on the panel is the most sort of trepidation or fear specific to AI plus fantasy football?
Yeah, it's the same one as everything. It's invalidation and job replacement.
So it's on the creation side of things more than the user side of things, would you say? Like, do you feel like it's more on the creation, like the content creator side of things and the folks that are in the industry, or more like the user has more of the fear of it?
Yeah, I'll let you guys see that. I want to just say one thing. I don't want to get up here and stoke any fears. Like, it doesn't hold us to be afraid of this thing. You've got to figure out what that. But it's a really important question. And if you, going back to like Geoffrey Hinton from like 10 years ago, and Ray Kurzweil, the CEO was here and the CEO was sharing as well. You want to learn about AI, go read the books. But the line item is typically redundant grunt and then consultative knowledge questions. And for us, our industry is just a statistical, analytics-based industry, and our job of learning is consultation. So we work in one of the industries that really have a top of this, and this thing does it, and those potential here now. One of the industries that gets hit with.
Use the microphone, please, Ronnie.
We were supposed to be one of the industries that gets hit at. I don't think we will. I think because we have guys like Scott Fish and Bob Harris and Joe and Matthew Perry still at most of the guys that started this thing 45 years ago and through that first 15, 20 years are still here. And we have a really unique community. And if we just collectively decide to stop being secretive about AI and have open communication with each other and help each other, even rival sites share insights, we will set ourselves up to, if those potentially negative impacts come towards our door, it's not going to be able to get in, and we'll be able to navigate it properly.
What we've seen in the football guys is I have sensed a lot of worry from our staff, both developers and content creators. And I don't know if this applies for everyone, but where I've been able to what I've been able to address that with is the stress of like, this is not losing people. This is helping. But I am expecting our people to be more productive. Our developers, and all it used to take 6 weeks is taking 3 weeks. And so I'm saying, your job's secure, yet I'm expecting more production from this area. And they seem to get that pretty well. That requires a employee, boss kind of relationship that they trust. And we fortunately have that. I realize not every place has that exactly the same. But that's been for us. We are using it purely as we have to see more out of this video editing first. Video editing used to be a hugely time-consuming thing. That now is a lot faster. So we're not firing any video editors, but we're expecting what used to take 3 hours and now may take 2 hours or whatever. We are starting to use and that's been how we started. And again, it's something you have to check. It doesn't always pick the most important stuff, but we're seeing a lot on like podcast stuff. We do a podcast that's an hour-long podcast and come in and summarize it for a written article. That is this, and this is content that would not exist if Bob had not said the words. but it's sort of, it takes place, it's almost like in some ways it's transcription that's been added to it. So we're using that one as well.
I do have a follow-up. So you said something, Bob, actually, you hit it on the head. You said, well, I wanted to do this. You have to ask AI questions. Like, it has to be correct. Is there any kind of courses that I'm going to now that teaches you how to ask the questions to get accurate and data that's relevant?
Yeah, I'm gonna shoot myself.
Planted question, wasn't it, right?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. I'm gonna shoot myself in the foot a little bit, but as I said when I launched the guy, like this is for the community, and I intend to be transparent with build, with everything. I'm gonna have courses, and I'm gonna collab with a lot of people over the next 6 months to provide those resources. But if you're in a pinch, best course is AI. Go in and ask it.
Yeah, ask AI how it wants to ask questions.
Well, and I was gonna say that's the number one hack with AI. It's not even, if you have something really important you want to get done, instead of asking it, go type down what you would ask, and then at the top say, hey, here's what I'm thinking about saying. Show me how to do a master prompt so that I can be effective, and copy and paste what it says into a new chat, and you are off to the races. And as an example, this is a prompt that you can use to go get every single camp update from Croc. I would prefer that you go to like FootballGuys articles and everyone else's stuff where they're doing like a lot of work. But I got this prompt by giving it my best use case prompt that I could do, and then I had it reformatted and add to it, and this is super useful. I use it a few times.
My question is mostly around, I'm kind of trying to win my lead and beat everybody else using AI. And so I've been trying to like advance my prompts so that I can use AI to like tell me if I'm making a good trade or not. Just, you know, that information beyond the calculators. Those are all just numbers.
You know, that right there is 1,000% what we're trying to address. So that's perfect. You know, I think as things progress, instead of the prompt optimization and learning how, it's more so us learning. So I think personalization is ultimately what we're building towards, where, you know, if you go on the app versus Ronnie going on the app versus me, we might have different experiences. Maybe somebody would prefer a bot that's more recurring, right? We've all experienced the thing where GPT just agrees with us no matter what, but maybe you wanted to kind of maybe you wanted to go harder on it, maybe you wanted to be more stat-oriented, or, you know, maybe you're a graph person. So we're ultimately looking to build that, a platform that learns the user, different for every user, and that's going to take a lot of these off the content.
Does it source from anybody else on the, like, they write an article, this your stuff, and it's sourced from them?
We do pull from a lot of sources. Our main driver of stats is FTN like numbers, ESPN projections as well. It's definitely a melting pot of different things.
Are you guys aware of anything that either ESPN or Yahoo or Sleeper are doing on the AI front at all?
Yeah.
Can you speak to that? Please.
I don't have exact details on what ESPN's working on, but you know, well, 100% of what they said, I didn't want some partnership with them. They were one of the first major companies to do that, and I think the original automated projection thing was ESPN, and it was with IBM Watson, and it's machine learning, and that's really like the language models are not machine learning models for numbers. You have to fine tune them. So, like IBM Watson, if you see that as the backend for a tool, it's usually going to be pretty good. I know NFL's got something going on. There's a bunch of people in the industry and a bunch of sites that have things in progress. You should expect that by this time next year, everyone's going to have something with AI.
Just about it. I think it's an interesting dynamic because the ESPN, Yahoo, Sleeper, they're all platforms that host it. It's interesting if everyone on that platform now gets access to some AI. So that's kind of our angle as well, where, you know, we feel like the advice, the edge comes from elsewhere. Otherwise, everyone's getting the same edge or advice on the same platform. So I'm sure they are interested in different things, but it just depends how it starts put out.
Really nice, kind of a two-part question. So, going kind of back to what we talked about, like verifying the information that comes back to you. If you've been doing leagues for many years, you have sources that you already trust. Like you have used them for many years. You know that they made it to it. You know, but even personally know some of the writers, right? Like you know that they can you point AI to like if you ask a question, can you tell it like don't search all of Google, don't search 100 sites, but just focus on these few. Can you do that? And then I guess the second part of that is if these are like behind paywall, right? So if you have subscriptions to those same sites that you trust, can you like sign in to make sure you're behind the paywall and then go tell AI so that you get good, the right content that you want to see?
That's a really good question. I kind of don't want to answer it. Yeah, but don't do that. There is so the big thing in 2025 is agentic workflows, and all of the predictions from 2022-ish, when GPT 3.5 really got good, right before GPT 4 came out, were about a 3 to 7 year run-up, depending on who you looked at. And the first pivot point was agents. Agents are systems that can go in and use AI and then take actions on your behalf. So like what you're talking about, ChatGPT has something called GPT Agent right now. When I was building my website, I actually had to go log into my Superbase account and my GitHub account and go pull stuff and work on a project for me while I was building. Why not? But you can do that if you log in. If they don't have a web scraping protocol in place that prevents that, you can do it. If they do, you can't. But it's a really smart way to use it if you want to get like really quick editing search done. Let's say we love football guys. Well, they have an AI tool now, so you should use that. But let's say that tool didn't give you everything you wanted. There's an extra thing, but you can go in and combine the two. Absolutely, paste the URL and tell what you need. It's not going to log in for you though. That's the one.
What's your opinion on AI and like fantasy football in terms of like auto analysis and that bullshit?
I wasn't here in the middle of that.
What's that?
I couldn't get in the middle of the book.
Oh, I said, what is your opinion on like a lot of these tools you guys have? You see like Sleeper, they allow it's almost like a best ball for some reason. They do your lineup for you. How do you like embrace AI but say, I still want the guy setting the lineups as a commission, or at least you got to play it. Again, that's just an answer that one.
I'm with you, and to me, that's part of playing the game.
Yes.
You know, it's like if you set it on autopilot, you're not really
Right.
That's a philosophical point for me, and I don't know how other folks feel about it, but that's how I see it. Although, I'm sure there are some people that would like that, and when you can do that, that will probably come into play. I see that being a decision made at the league level, the commissioner. I mean, you know, just as you say, we're not going to allow this. This is not how it's going to be. Like, it gets made hard to enforce, but it kind of becomes an owner thing.
Yeah, just to add on that, I mean, I think this is a space that's largely driven by our love for fantasy, our love for football, and it's consumer focused, right? So if there's things that arise where collectively the consumers look at each other like, nah, we don't want that, I don't see a real reason why not. So that's my 2 cents.
Treat it the way you treated my playbook from Fantasy Pros for the last 10 years. A lot of leagues will not let you use that for good reasons. Sorry, great question. Nothing else to add there. Let's do like 1 or 2 more questions, and then I want each of us to go through and get the best possible tip on how to do it. And then we'll ask AI the same thing and close this thing up. It's been a great Expo. This has been awesome. Thank you guys for coming. Matt, do you have any questions?
Not yet. Not to take the whole room hostage. Yeah.
Matt, do you use, I'm sure you're heavy in it, the data you pull all the time.
No, I'm very inexperienced.
Are you?
You'd be shocked at how many people, like, if you're an established person and your value has been like your knowledge or your edge and your unique ability to do something, and a tool shows up and you just kind of do that, it's hard to adopt it. And so there are so many people that are just still trying to get over it. And I'll fully admit, every single time I use it, for like 10 seconds. After I hit send, my anxiety is like through the roof, and then it goes back down because I'm getting used to it. But it's a lot. It's a lot.
Do you think that AI is going to take away from the satisfaction you feel when you manage your team right without really using other like AI or any other software? Because I feel like up until a few years ago, we didn't really have, we were all printing out sheets, and a lot of us still, I think, do that, whether it's Excel or whatever you use. But I feel like I'm sort of afraid that that satisfaction is like going to just decrease as AI gets smarter and smarter to predict how to manage our teams, set our rosters, and trade analysis, and everything that you kind of have done on your own. I feel like that's going to eventually go away.
No, I agree, because I think at that point it's less about, there's less you in it. And I think that almost a similar example would be that for on the content creation side, a lot of the fear, concern around AI was, well, if it can write articles, then it's going to replace a lot of the writers that are currently out here. But still, the part that I think a lot of people would appreciate about a writer is that you're getting their voice. It's not just you're getting the answer, it's not just you're getting the player, you're not just getting the analysis, you're getting their perspective, and you're kind of reading along with them. Similar to what you're talking about here, in that you're putting in the work in order to manage this team from the draft all the way through week 17. But now if you've taken yourself out of it, really what's the satisfaction you gain in it? Okay, sure, depending on if it's a high stakes league, you win a bunch of money, okay, fine. But if it's for your home league, it's the league with your college friends, your family, you take all that stuff out of it, and what are you left with? Sure, you get the championship and whatever. So the more that we wind up removing ourselves from the thing that we're actually doing, then I wholeheartedly agree that satisfaction will start to become more and more muted as we continue to use some of those tools, if it's just for that. And now, if it's about trying to make things simpler and more effective and more efficient in your life, I can understand that. But if your goal is to then say, well, I'm going to use AI to draft my team, and then I'm going to use AI to set my roster, then it's like, well, then why are you in it? Why are you doing this? And so I agree that there is some diminishing returns from that standpoint, for sure.
I think this is fun because I actually disagree. I don't think that's going to be a problem. I think we already have that with my playbook, and it's going to be user preference, in my opinion. People either are going to want to have the help or not. And I think that we should always recognize that we are pretty special. And as things get more commonplace and easy for everyone, regardless of industry, then the people that are truly good at that one thing, if we use pottery, for example, or stuff in your house, there's a reason the hand-made stuff is the most expensive. And so as things get commercialized, the value of the people that are hands-on and doing stuff authentically actually grows. And so even if 5 years from now, most of our fan base is just going to Grok to get fantasy advice, you're still going to have a lot of people coming to your site. And I think within that, well, actually, don't quote me on that. Maybe not, depending on if this AI overview thing actually does kill us. But I think that for leagues and the agency that we get, the reason we all play is to have fun. And a lot of us that I've talked to, and I put myself in this category for sure, a lot of times I'll intentionally not do a lot of research before draft because I really enjoy the moment and vibe of it. And so I think if that's what you love, there's never going to be a scenario where you can't find that. And we're protected in our industry because we aren't operating with something that is deterministic. We're judging a bunch of dudes that put on pads and hate each other really hard. So there's going to be this level of incorrectness, no matter how good the AI is, no matter how good we are. Maybe what happens is 5 years from now, AI is the best analyst, but we're all the competition just to see who can get closest. And maybe that's what it changes to.
I agree. I'm not overly worried about that because we had that. I mean, we've had Bob Harris doing rankings since 1995. If you really wanted to go there, you would just have done that already and let Bob run your team for you. So I think we've had that opportunity to turn our personal, agency over to either an expert or AI already, and that just doesn't happen.
It's a really good question. I have spent so much time over the last 3 years just freaking out thinking about stuff like that. It's a lot, for sure. You? Oh, sorry.
Hogging the mic, right?
I think it's a really good question. I think you're right in the sense that, for example, the day before your draft, let's say you're researching for a while, and it's like, oh, I think I found something. And you draft that player, and there it goes off. I think it's a really good, warm experience. So I think some is certainly taken there, but I think the case I'll make is there's still a lot left to be gained. Like for example, can I know right off the top of my head instantly what Tyreek Hill's top speed was last year versus 2023 versus 2022, and I map it against some other player? Can I try to do something to know if he was ever faster than Usain Bolt? I can't do it. And I think in the future that is where we're headed, and I think there's a lot of satisfaction to be gained there. I think that what you were saying earlier on is, could allow us to tap into some of our creative spirit. It's really going to be the people who can get analytical, look at things from the right angles, and create proper deductions are going to be the ones that get ahead. We live in a world that's filled with nuance. I think if you ask a certain fantasy analyst, why they like that player, list every single reason why you like that player. They might list 25% of the things that are actually going on in their head. I think the 75% of it might just be in the subconscious. So there's a lot of these small things that humans subconsciously factor into their choices that it's not something AI can just come and replicate overnight. So there's still a long way to go, and I think the nuance and some of that stuff is what makes us love the game, and I don't think it's not going away anytime soon.
We started about 5 minutes late, so let's do one more question, and then we're going to each give you our best tip on how to use AI, and we'll ask AI to do the same thing and we wrap up. Unless we don't have it. All right, best tip.
So I think one of the things I was saying earlier about from my standpoint for content creation is I like to try and use AI to make my job easier or make it go faster. So like case I was laying out earlier for trying to prepare for a show, I have a list of topics, and of course I'll try and pull every single nugget about a player or a game or whatever the topic is going to be. I think everything's important because I just like talking about football in general. But using AI in order to try and truncate a lot of my thoughts, be able to distill things into a 2-minute discussion point, that is what I can use it for. Because if not, I'm probably going to continue talking for 30 minutes and take up somebody's entire segment or the entire podcast with me rambling. So using AI in order to make things like short and sweet, and using the prompts in order to try and tailor that so it's more for a format that would be digestible to other people, that's where I found it to be the most useful. Because for a lot of the things where we do have to make things kind of tight and efficient, that is at least, for me, it's been a very powerful tool from that standpoint.
Mine is going to be super simple, and I got this from my good buddy Bob Harris. If you want to get more useful at it, just use it. Just use it, and just ask. Let it almost replace, or for me, it was replacing Google. If I'm trying to figure out the Cubs game, if the Cubs are in town when I'm going to be in Chicago that day, days in past, you Google Cubs baseball, look for the schedule, navigate through that. Instead, just ask it, are the Cubs in town on August 4th? And it's just so much easier, and it also starts to learn. Maybe that's creepy, but it does understand your tendencies and what you like. I asked it something recently about a church question, and it gave me back an answer in church language. If y'all church people know, it's not, we use weird words that are kind of weird sometimes. And it sounded like my pastor wrote it, and it was amazingly accurate and good. And that had just been simply because I had been using it enough and knew enough about it. So I think the more you use it, the better it gets.
Love that. I agree wholeheartedly. I'm going to give you a prompted one. This has been my favorite trick with talking to AI since it became a thing. And a guy to follow on X, Ethan Mollick, is a research lab AI guru one of those people that makes millions of dollars on their salary because they're better at this than everyone except for like 20 other people. And he every day shares a research paper or a tip or an article or an experience. I've learned so much just by like getting him in my algorithm and on my feed. And so see people like that out on social media, seek us out. And the tip is to go get AI to consult with a board of advisors or directors on the subject that you want to talk about. And it's pretty fun. It'll actually like show you and talk with you and stuff, but that creates just so much more context for the AI to work from and prohibits it from one-shotting an answer and being lazy. And especially if you have like a high-level question that you're really not sure about, get it to consult with the board of directors, and it's a total cheat code.
You asked that in your prompt, right?
Yeah, like I just did one here. Consult with the board of directors and the brightest minds and people available to the subject at hand. You are my research assistant and professional aid. What are the best 4 tips, tricks, for someone emergency what it says?
I think it's really important to be more opportunistic and nimble than fearful. I think if somebody is, as we start to enter this paradigm shift, if somebody's going in fearful, I'm not betting on their ability to be opportunistic and use it in a good way. They should almost want change. And, if you look at our team, for example, everyone in the black shirt on the left, we're young. I mean, there's no one that's over the age of 30 on the team. We're a bunch of guys that saw an opportunity, wanted to go seize it, and I think especially if you're young, this is the way we get ahead, this is the way we get change. I think right now we're probably one of the biggest, we probably got the stack of the tech team in this, at least sub-niche. So it's really exciting once you get to come. I think it starts from the attitude, from the mindset. So second tip, try out Rotobot. Everyone here will get you free access. Just literally anyone in one of the Rotobot shows, just talk to them. We'll get that done.
All right, so this is fun. GPT-5, I guess, doesn't show you that stuff because it decided it's good enough to just do it on its own. So I had to go ask it to show the board of directors. But so it went through and it created, actually that Mira Chin is a real person, so it tried to clone her personality. Alex Vega, top conference engineer, and you can see it go through and basically say, okay, you want to go talk about this? Here's the 5 most important categories of people on that subject. I'm going to now go reference what they would say and all of my training data on each of them, and I'm going to collaborate through that and give you a much more proper answer than I would have otherwise. And the tips are, I'm not going to read all this, I'll just read the tip. So tip number 1, be specific like a coach drawing up a play. It's a really good tip. You want to think when you're talking about an AI, the best way to think about structuring your sentences is like just English class. And if it's been a while, go read a course on English and structuring the verbs and the adverbs and how they all work together. Best way to learn how to talk to AI. Chain the play calls, so it's like chain of thought reasoning. It's a really good tip. It's less and less important as the weeks go by. Use that as a research aggregator, not an oracle. Exactly what we were talking about earlier. It's not going to be perfect on everything, but it is an aggregate that can do more work than you can. So rely on that. And then finally, build your individual layouts. It's a great one. I actually don't know specifically what it means better, but I'll take that to myself. And then my last thing for you guys, other than saying thanks, is believe in yourself. Like you can do this. My mom is, she's 63. That's young. She's had a lot of really tough struggles, and she is like, she's better at AI than most people I know. I taught her how to use it 2 years ago, and she goes through it every day. She debugged our thermostat the other day. My dad got into it. I was over there visiting, and I couldn't figure out what to do. I took out her phone, talked with ChatGPT, she fixed it. Everything she does now interfaces with AI first, and she's happier than she's ever been. So, do it.
This might be more for Chris. So I'm not fearful of this AI. I don't use a lot of these things. I have a lot of, as you know, Ronnie, a lot of automated, efficient processes that I have perfected over years and years. Chris, you use AI with your work. my biggest fear is the time commitment. In that, do I just overrun all my systems now, or do I slowly, piece by piece, do it? I'm not a guy who has a lot of spare time. I'm a very, very busy guy. So, would you recommend almost tearing it down on the side and rebuilding it, or just piece by piece re-automating all the stuff I have with what I have?
For me personally, it's been almost a piece by piece like type of thing. So for, like I was saying, for like the podcast stuff, that was almost a complete tear down. Like how do we even go through like putting together notes, and then I had to step through a process to create the right prompts and that, and then had to start pulling all the data, and then afterwards distilling it into like these bite-sized pieces. So, but for each of the things that I do, whether it's for writing an article, preparing for a show, or whatever, each of those have been almost almost stepping back and understanding how I do things from a process standpoint, and then designing and building a lot of it. But it has been a piece by piece process versus saying, well, I'm just not going to do anything, and then until I completely have everything re-audited or something along those lines. So it has been a hodgepodge. I'm the same boat.
Yeah, an efficient process that takes X amount of time. Right. And to rebuild it, I'm adding more time on it.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm with you.
I agree with Chris. My advice would be to believe in yourself. You can do it quicker than you think. You can, if you really put your head down, you can get anything you want done with AI in about 25 hours. So, just do that. I don't know, I guess I love my mom, so I forget what I'm there. Last thing before we go, please go check out Matthew Berry's Fantasy Life, all the tools they're doing over there. It's incredible. I know you're with a bunch of people. Is there anything else AI related that you want to shout out? That's it? Yeah. Make sure you go to Football Guys and check them out. They've been around forever. They're always at the forefront of things, and they are also in AI. Got that goofy little flyer of mine. The image on the back of that is not a real picture. That's not me.
Oh, yes!
That's just an AI. Rotobot's incredible. Please go check them out. And then Goodguy.AI, the last thing. This helps me. Go buy this book. Kevin Murray's book, The Commissioner's Playbook. And it's incredible. He has joined my board of advisors along with Bob Harris, and I'm going to try to round out that over the next few months. And in a couple weeks, I'm going to open up a big portion of equity to the community because I want to get people involved. And so try to piecemeal that together. And beyond that, I am here and around. So if you have questions, hit me up. Come to people like us. And as you continue to try to get better at fantasy football, keep an eye out for companies that are embracing AI because they are going to be the winners. And that is just what it is. And lastly, if you want to meet with me, the promise I'll make for you is that you're probably not going to have to meet with me again afterwards. It's get in, get out, and you're good to go with AI. And so that's what I'm going to do. I want to help you guys, and I want to help empower all of my friends that are doing stuff with AI as well. And thank you guys for coming out. This has been a long, cool panel, so let's get out of here. This has been a great weekend. Appreciate you guys so much.